Hello there and welcome back for another video. This is Cassie. I'm going to show you the products I'm going to be using today. I could not resist grabbing out the new Trinity stamps called Dir-Tea Bunny and the matching dies because I've been just itching to ink this one up. I love it. And then I'm also going to pull out the coffee mug card die along with a Latte Love stamp set. Those went well with this. I'm also going to be using this. It's a Polka Doodles Timeless Rose paper. I only have a couple sheets left of it, and if I can find it, I will link it down below, but that's what I'm using. I'm going to be using some Nina cream cardstock along with those strawberry and champagne confetti. So let's go ahead and get started die cutting. I like that this coffee mug basically is the size of an A2 card front, so I've got a 5.5 inch by 8.5 inch piece of cardstock. I'm going to tape down my die to that just to make sure it doesn't move in the die cutting process, and then I'll run that through my Gemini machine, and there you have it. And then I'm going to run it through one more time, but just on one of the coffee mugs. And I do it on that pattern paper, but I end up cutting it so that the hearts are sideways. So let that be a lesson, folks. Pay attention to how you're putting your paper pad down. I've got my bunny, and I put it inside of my Misti, and I'm going to ink this up with not Memento Tuxedo Black, but Memento Espresso Truffle. This is a very dark brown. I thought it would just go really well with our coffee tea theme. And so, I mean, it almost looks black, but it's definitely brown when you look at it close up. And this is Copic friendly, so that's why I'm using it. So I'll stamp that a couple times because we're making 2 cards. All right, for our coloring, I've got E41, and it's going to be a little bit hard to see because I'm doing a stippling technique where you just hold the marker up and down, basically perpendicular to your surface, and then you just pounce it down, getting little dots. So it is a really cool effect. It works really well when you have objects like that. Bunny is obviously going to be a very textured bunny, so this will add lots of texture. So I started with E41, and I'm coming in now with E43, doing a little bit more stippling. And I'm basically doing this the same way I would normally do my Copic coloring, except it's just a different technique. So what I mean by doing it the same is that I started with my lightest color. Now I'm coming in with my mid-tone, and then when I'm happy with how I've put down the E43, we're going to come in with some E44. That's my darkest color, and I'll do the exact same thing with it, but probably using a little less of the color. So I'm being a little bit more sparing with that, but then I'm also going to work backwards again. When I'm happy with how the E44 looks, we're going to work backwards. We'll come back in with our E43 again, and that'll soften up those really dark spots, and it'll also add a few more of the E43, and then I'll come in again with the E41, and that'll add even more of those lighter dots, which is really cool. And I have 2 bunnies, so I'm going to color them the exact same way. You're just not going to see the other bunny colored. I do decide to bring in another color just for added effect. I'm not sure why. I just was like, I really want to add that. I think it was because I decided to color one of my mugs this color, but it's YR65. So it's just a few dots of that. It just adds, it makes it so the bunny's not so dull. And I'll come back in and I'll add it over his or her little cheeks as well later on. For their nose, I'm using R32. And then we're going to color our mugs. So now I didn't show all the stamping on the mugs. The mugs come with just a mug. They also have the stamp that would stamp the center of the mug and, like where the tea would be. And then it also, you can add just about any kind of sentiment because they all come in there. So the one says, eat my dust, and the other one says, Dir-Tea. And I did stamp the tea bag on both of those. And that's because I'm actually a tea drinker. I prefer tea over coffee. I know that sounds crazy, but I just really do. So this mug I'm doing with the R32 and the E41, and that was on the first one. I used the E41 on that one as well. So it just kind of dulls down that color just a little bit, but it still has that pink shade in there and that peach shade for the other one. And I just think it's fun. So we'll just keep coloring that until we're happy. And then when we're done with that, we're going to grab out the matching dies. These are ones that I love to have the matching dies for because those simply are just fantastic, especially when they cut out their little hands or their little paws in this case. So I'll tack this down with a little bit of purple tape, and I love it because it's going to cut out his paws too, or at least around them. And that way he can hold his coffee mug. So once I have that tacked down, we'll run that through our die cutting machine. And I've got all the pieces cut out, and I even put the little coffee mugs inside their little hands. And then we'll get ready to start assembling our cards. So I'm going to run, here's some lazy crafting for you folks. I did not feel like looking through my stash for some brown cardstock, and that Copic, that E44 was sitting there. I thought, well, this matches perfect, so we'll just go ahead and color some of my cardstock that color and run that through the die cutting machine, and voila. So it's lazy, but it also shows you that if you don't have the exact color you need, you can make your own. My card base is some more of that Nina cardstock. It's a cream cardstock. I had cut that down to 5.5 inches by 8.5 and scored at 4.25. And now I'm trimming down this piece of pattern paper to be 4 inches by 5.25, so it'll have a nice cream colored border around it. I did stamp out a circle, and now I'm stamping my sentiment, which is going to say warmest wishes. And I just stamped the warmest on that cream cardstock using that Memento Espresso Truffle. And I decide, once again, because I didn't want to look through my stash, to use the Memento Espresso Truffle right on the paper there. And I'm going to heat set that because I want to stamp my wishes on there, but I want to emboss it with some white embossing powder. So I'm going to heat that and then make sure that's good and dry. And I'll check it even. So before I stamp down, I'll check, and it's a good thing I did because it was still completely wet. So I'll wipe off that powder again. I'll use my magic powder bag really well on there, and we'll test it one more time. And that seemed to work, so we will put down some more of that magic powder bag. Then we'll ink up the word wishes with some embossing ink, stamp it down, cover that with that Brutus Monroe Alabaster embossing powder, and then we'll heat set that till that is smooth and melted. Then we're going to put this into our Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer, and we're going to trim down both sentiments, but I actually end up fussy cutting out the word wishes. I just thought that looked a little bit better, but I used this paper, man. I used it for all kinds of stuff, so we definitely got our money's worth out of that little sheet of paper. And then I'll trim down the word warmest just to make sure it fits on there nicely, and then fussy cut wishes. And then we'll be ready to start assembling. I'll tack down my paper with some of my liquid glue. This is the Nuvo Deluxe Adhesive. And then I'm going to tack down the circle as well. I want this to be kind of coming off the side, just for a little bit of, I don't know, something different. And then I'll tack down my word warmest with the same liquid glue. And then we'll tack down wishes as well. And it definitely, after all this is said and done, it will look like it needs something. I do apologize, my camera ends up like stopping because I did so much filming today. It just was like trying to catch a breath. So I don't get me tacking down any of the strawberries and champagne confetti, but it's going to be put on there. And I stamp on the inside of this card as well. Just the bunny, and then I tack down a piece of that, excess piece of that pattern paper on the inside as well. I'll show you though at the end. We're going to glue down the opening of our coffee mug, and then we'll glue down our pattern paper onto the front of our card base. I just think this is so cute, and it fits into an A2 size envelope perfectly. Very clever. And then we're going to back our little bunny with some foam tape, just like the other one, but I'm going to glue his coffee mug into his hand first. And I'll peel off all the release paper on the back of that bunny and stick him down. I didn't put any more sentiments on the outside of this one. I just thought this would be a cute little note to stick in the mail. But here we go. There they are with all their little confetti. I think that really adds. And there's the inside of that one. So if you liked this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'm going to have everything I use linked in the description box down below. This was a very fun set of cards to make. I'm sure I'll be using this one many, many more times. And I will see you very soon in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.